Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Charges Need to Be Pressed. I had a colleague named Jean. Jean was a keen cyclist in her 60s who used to cycle during her lunch hour. On lunch hour, while cycling down the main street of our town, a car door opened and Jean struck the door. She fell onto the ground, sustaining minor injuries. The driver leaped from the car and started screaming at Jean for minor damage to her car door. Jean tried to apologize, but the driver just screamed more at her, demanding that the police be called and compensation be paid. A passerby helped Jean up. Jean tried to reason with the woman, but she demanded the police be called. The police arrived shortly after and heard the stories from both sides and the witnesses. The driver demanded charges be laid, and the police officer agreed, charging the driver with a range of offenses. The driver got a hefty fine and license suspended. Jean's brother was a solicitor who sent a letter demanding just what the driver wanted: compensation. It wasn't much, but the driver promptly paid. The next story is called Full Speed. Back when I was 16, I was a regular at our pony club. For those who don't know, that's a club where you bring your own horse or pony and get riding lessons from instructors. Our sole instructor was interesting. If your parents were useful to her, then you get a free pass. But if not, you bore the rough edge of her tongue and were set up to fail. You can guess which camp I fell into. My usual mount was not a jumper, and this day we were concentrating on tricky jump spreads and pacing. So I borrowed a friend's backup horse, who was a known spicy ride. The owner was adamant I not wind him up, as he would lose his mind and go full throttle. So I'm carefully taking him around the course, dropping to a trot between jump approaches, then gunning him a little just before the jumps, exactly as his owner wanted. And we were clearing the jumps just fine. Instructor, we'll call her D, tells me I'm going too slow and to keep him at a fast canter the whole way. I responded that he would get overly excited if I did that, and we went back and forth a bit. Finally, D roars at me that she's the instructor. I'm just the rider. Do what I'm told or go home. Gun it, she yells. So I gunned it. I heard his owner's gasp from across the ring. Somehow we cleared the first jump, turned, and instead of steadying for the second jump, I let him go for it. He absolutely ran for it. We had no chance with the second jump. We were going too fast for him to judge takeoff. So we hit the jump, literally, and cartwheeled. I flew over his head. His front hoof came down on top of my riding helmet, slid down the front, taking off the visor and the very tip of my nose. Concussions for me, a destroyed helmet. The horse was fine, if a little spooked, and Madame's expert opinion took a hit from the horrified parents and students watching. I told you he'd lose his mind if we gunned it. The third story is called Engineer Compliance. I work in the engineering department for a government contractor. While I myself am not an engineer, I work closely with them, and am very familiar with their love of sarcasm and malicious compliance. This story takes place earlier this morning. I had to submit something that I'm working on to the electrical engineers for their input on it. Many things in this job are very particular on wording. So to make sure that it was going to be processed, I asked the power engineer work leader if the form had to be titled in a particular way. His response was that I could literally write anything in there, and it would be accepted. The official ASME abbreviation guidelines for the word analysis is ANAL. Next thing he knows, he's getting the email from me with the power analysis request, saying, "Hi, can you give this other engineer this power ANAL for me?" He regretted telling me that I could write anything in the title line, but he did Skype me afterwards and said that he almost fell out of his chair, laughing at the title. The last story is called No Card Payment. This happened about 10 years ago. I got mailed a notice from our local public library that I had a $40 in library fines, and that if they weren't paid by a certain deadline, they would double. The library was downtown, next to my work, but a long way from home. At the time, I was taking public transit. I procrastinated to the last day and went in after work to pay the fine before it doubles. I only carry my driver's license, my credit card and bus pass in my phone case. No wallet. Come to find out, the library doesn't take cards, only cash or checks. It's after 5. The bank is closed. I don't carry checks. There's no way I can make it home and back using the bus. I asked for mercy and promised to bring in cash or a check the next morning. They won't make an exception, and they doubled my fine, even though I tried to pay it on time. I'm really frustrated. Cue malicious compliance. I've already had my fine doubled, so there is no rush to pay it at this point. I calculate that it is $1.56 per week if I pay it over 52 weeks. I set up my bank's automatic bill pay for a weekly recurring payment. For an entire year, they snail mailed me the receipt for my weekly check payments. I think it's their policy. The envelopes were all handwritten. I probably cost them double or more in man hours to process their doubled fine. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.